I'm doing this video in the morning, so it may not have that totally floating head look that I like, but as I look in the little viewfinder here, it looks pretty good. At least I think it looks good. You might be thinking something else, like, what's with the big floating head? Something I've been thinking about doing for a while, and I dabbled in last week, is reading articles from Slashdot. Not exactly reading the articles, but just showing you some articles and saying a little something about them. So this week, aside from this little babble I'm doing now by way of introduction, I'm going to focus the entire video on Slashdot news articles. So here we go. Are you ready? Are you excited? Are you thinking about switching to another video? Why the NTSB is wrong about cell phones. After a multi-car pileup involving 2 school buses, the NTSB is urging states to ban all cell phones and personal electronic devices in cars, even hands-free phones. Why is the NTSB targeting gadgets instead of bad drivers? I've asked myself this for years. Now, I'm not saying that using a cell phone in your car is 100% safe, but there are a lot of distracting things people do in their cars. Eating cheeseburgers, putting on makeup, arguing with their spouses. Should we outlaw all of these things? These kinds of knee-jerk reactions are dangerous. It's not the cell phone's fault. But if you're gonna have a knee-jerk reaction after something causes an accident, I'd be more in favor of banning arguing couples. And in a related story, Google awarded driverless vehicle patent. Yeah, once we get to the point where cars are driving themselves, then we can be eating cheeseburgers and putting on our makeup and frying bacon and smacking our kids, all on a nice, smoothly flowing freeway. It may not be the flying cars of the Jetsons, but still sounds pretty good to me. However, my favorite solution to problems on the freeway? Stay home. And finally, my favorite story of the week, Louis C.K.'s internet experiment pays off. This is the kind of experiment that it's so cool to see succeed. I'll let you read the story, but in a nutshell, it's that he paid for it out of his own pocket. He didn't have to take this risk. As he pointed out in a statement, he could have easily gotten a couple $100,000 guaranteed for doing a couple of shows. But then the big company would have charged us, the fans, a lot more than $5. And the performance would have been owned by that big company. Instead, we, the fans, pay $5. Louis gets to keep the money. And I really like Louis' attitude about the whole thing, because rather than threatening people with fines and going to jail, he just politely asked, hey, give me $5. This guy's amazing. He just comes up with an hour of new material like it's nothing. The coolest thing about this hour isn't just the comedy part of it. It's the technical part of it. It's the new media part of it. It's the cutting out the middleman part of it. And it also just underscores how out of touch record labels and movie studios have become. Yeah, I know that's not news. But did you hear about the experiment that Universal was going to do with the movie Tower Heist? They wanted to see how much people were willing to pay for video on demand of a movie when it's still in the theaters. So their plan was to charge people $60. $60. Well, we'll never know how that experiment would have turned out, because as it turns out, the movie theaters boycotted and Universal decided to drop that experiment. But just the fact that they were thinking about doing it, it really does. Doesn't that just kind of put the cherry on the cake? Or do you put cherries on cakes? I don't know. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Louis charges $5, and within the first few days, over 100,000 people paid the $5. Now, you know, I'm not getting all delusional thinking that, hey, this means that I can go out and offer something for $5 and people are going to give me hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I ain't Louis C.K. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Louis C.K. is who I wished I could be. Louis C.K. is awesome, and Louis C.K. has earned what he's gotten. Louis C.K. has been doing this exclusively for years, whereas I just keep dipping my toes in the water. I'm not worthy! But still, I like this new business model. And I don't think it's just about the entertainment industry either. In fact, I know it isn't. I think this is a great sign for the future, because on the one hand, it's a new thing, but on the other hand, it's kind of an old thing. It's kind of like the old marketplace where, you know, somebody sets up a vegetable stand and says, you want a tomato? And I say, yeah, I want a tomato. Okay, a tomato's like 2 drachmas. Drachmas? So I go, okay, here's 2 drachmas. And he gives me a tomato. And I have a feeling that my little metaphor might lead you to give me a tomato. Here's a little dose of perspective. Hubble captures the violent birth of a star. Whenever I'm getting all wrapped up in my own little human problems here on planet Earth, I love looking at stuff like this. Just really puts you in your place, doesn't it? Amazing.